Hi people, my name is again as always, and as usual. Yeah, I'm going to be covering another goetic spirit. It's going to be spirit number 62. Volac or Valak or Valu or Ualuc. Or Volac or Valak or Valu or Ualuc. The 62nd spirit is Volac or Valak or Valu. He's a president, mighty and great, and appeared like a child with angel's wings, riding on a two-headed dragon. His office is to give true answers of hidden treasures and to tell where serpents may be seen. The latter which he will bring unto the exerciser without any force or strength being by him employed. He governeth 38 legions of spirits, etc. And you can see his seal alongside the description in the thumbnail of this video, as is usually the case. So yeah, let's dive right in. Volac, I'll be calling him Volac. Volac is lunar. He corresponds to 0 degrees in Cancer, and also has a considerable Martian influence about him. I'll explain, of course, in a moment. The type of entity he is that he is a pagan god, but a pagan god in the sense of being a private egregore, a private thought form. Now, in terms of appearance, Volac does indeed appear as mentioned in the goetic. His description in full is correct. Volac does appear, Volac or Valak, he does indeed appear as an angelic looking being riding a two-headed dragon, or a child with angel's wings riding on a two-headed dragon. Specifically the fact that he's also two-headed. So think like a little blonde boy, like the cheesy thingy, mainstream media's depiction of Cupid, minus the bow and arrow. But instead of one head, it has two heads, and riding a dragon, also with two heads, purple dragon, purple with tinge, with a shade of dark. That's what Volac looks like, and his appearance is essentially the people that worshipped him, created him, and worshipped him, so to speak. His followers and their worshippers. They what was I gonna say again? This is the reason he looks like that is because that's the presumption they had of what they perceived as divinity, but not true divinity, pagan divinity. Let's just put it that way. It's their perception of what an entity or a deity or a spiritual being should look like. So hence the appearance. His followers and their worshippers were active between the 10th century and the 15th century, and this falls within the scope of, in a known world, this falls within the scope of my beloved Eastern Roman Empire, my Byzantine Empire. So yeah, he was active in Roman times, and for people that are familiar with Eastern Roman history, they know that it was Christian. So you might wonder how that ties into him being a private egregore and or a pagan god, in between quotations or in between apostrophes, a so-called pagan god. Of course, paganism was outlawed in the Eastern Roman Empire, but of course you can expect some people to still practice paganism, and that's where he enters the fray. He was simply one of the guys that they worshipped, so to speak, figuratively, and these were like a private group of pagan worshippers that simply went against imperial doctrine, religious doctrine, and they remained pagan. But of course they hid their practices in such a way that it wasn't even remotely visible, it didn't stand out whatsoever. And his followers were specifically outdoorsmen, huntsmen, any person that for either private or professional or both reasons went into nature or ventured into nature in any way, shape or form, simply exposed themselves to the elements. So think of huntsmen, think of berry pickers or cherry pickers, think of outdoor large-scale farmers, in a manner of speaking, those kind of guys. And as I already mentioned, similar to a pagan god from back then, they simply did things like have trinkets and whatnot, and they neared him and simply in a muffled tone essentially like called upon him beneath their breath or underneath their breath, you name it. They worked in such a way in any case that it went by largely undetected. Now that brings me to the description. The part where it says that he can give true answers of hidden treasures, and he can tell you where serpents may be seen, and he can bring these serpents to you. Yes, that is also correct. Okay, the fact that he's lunar is not a surprise based on this description. That description is also correct. He essentially, since the moon and its underlying or subservient zodiac sign Cancer, the only zodiac sign that the moon rules over, has to deal with, one of the main things it deals with is nature. Anything that comes from the bowels of the earth, like we're talking about specifically underground or in hidden places, places that aren't places that are obscure and clandestine in such a way that it's not easily detectable. Someone has a really hard time, something that's not visible to human eyes at I want to say at first glance, but even at multiple glances. So yeah, that's also where it comes into play. So he can indeed do that. That is indeed a specialty. So, and don't just think like the stereotypical classical treasure chest. Think of anything that qualifies as a treasure, anything that can be of value to you based on your intent, whether these are trinkets that were discarded a long time ago, or something that has serious financial and or monetary value. The part with attracting serpents to you, it doesn't just apply to serpents in general. That's where his Martian influence comes into play. Think of any dangerous reptilian animal, you know, any animal that has a tendency to venture near water or similar, like any reptile essentially that you'll find in a forest or a jungle or similar, or near a swamp or similar, you name it, or any kind of body of water. It doesn't have to be a huge body of water, you know, just basic forest related reptiles that are dangerous. So other than snakes of all kinds, doesn't matter what kind of snake it is, whether it's a water snake, a sea serpent, any snake, any kind of serpent. It can be like caiman, crocodile, again, think an eel, anything, okay? Anything that you'll find in the outdoors by global levels and or standards that has killing potential applicable to a human being, or the potential to seriously harm and or maim. So yeah, in this case, everything that is said in his description is correct, and bringing these animals to you, yeah, also correct. But of course within the scope of occultism, so don't expect to like go into an area where there are literally no snakes or similar, or any kind of reptiles that you're looking for, and you're just going to say, oh, okay, bring them to me. A snake isn't going to travel 100 miles just to come to you as the operator. No, you need to think realistically. This applies to the occult in general. Okay, the most practical solution is that he will guide you to that specific and particular location, as in you'll find snakes here, there, and there, and there, and yeah, you need to go here, here, there, and there. And then if you're within a vicinity, then they'll naturally be drawn to you, thanks to Volac. Let me see if I missed anything, if I have anything else. Yeah, no, the Volac, you can clearly tell that Volac corresponds to the element water, similar to another spirit that a goetic spirit that I covered like yesterday or the day before yesterday. He moves around quite a lot because again, water is constantly like in motion, still non-still standing water. So with water, you need to think about fluidity in a spiritual sense, or within a spiritual context. And yeah, because when I interacted with him, he like kept flying around me and whatnot, like yip, 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 yip. And his voice is a normal voice. It's just a typical human's voice, but with a slight echo to it. But in such a way that he's not the only spirit that has that, in such a way that his mouth doesn't move. But that's not a big deal, obviously. So it's more telepathic, but again, he's lunar, so it's anything but a surprise. Also not a surprise that you can't see him clearly fully. He has more of an ethereal vibe about him. But again, the lunarness. Yeah, no, and that is all. Bye-bye.